the whole organ transplantation industry is based on in the presence of intensive care units, and then the conception of brain death, right? So they pretty much, and we can talk a little bit of the exceptions, but organs come from people who are brain dead. Brain dead, the term gets thrown around a lot, very sloppily sometimes, but brain dead is defined as complete and total loss of all brain function forever. And it's a clinical diagnosis, actually, and that creates the opportunities to harvest the organs. I'm going to tell you the honest truth. The clinical diagnosis of brain death is pretty simple, and I know, actually, it's a little more gray and complicated than the sort of simple, paint by numbers, check the boxes rules. I personally think that it should be simple, because there's a tremendous amount. Because if you're got one cell left, but there are arguments about this. Is the entire brain really, really totally dead? How do you know the last cell is dead? And what I find, having done this for years, is I don't really need to know that the last cell is dead. I do know I've never seen a guy like that, right, with that kind of problem ever regain their brain function. And so that creates opportunities for the gift of life. And I don't know if that addresses your question, but it's odd. We have two legal definitions of death, right? Complete loss of biologic function, I guess, and life due to cardiac death. Then we've got the brain death, where the brain's a selective knockout, but everything else is working and well perfused. But what's great is in New York State, if your doctor tells you, I'm very sorry to tell you, but your mom or dad is brain dead, right? They're only legally brain dead if you accept that. So in New York State, if you say, well, that's all well and good, except I don't accept brain death for whatever reason, then guess what? You're not legally brain dead.
So that it's a really important question, but I want to turn it just a little bit, because I think everybody should understand that the fact that there are people waiting for livers or waiting for hearts or waiting for lungs in this country is something that could be fixed with the technology we have right now, essentially overnight. So every person who's waiting for an organ, it's, if you will, a collective decision that we've made about the way in which we sort of manage our very uncomfortable feelings about donation or lack of donation and things like that. And there are a couple of nation states that have really started to take this on. So in France, I know that they purchased a whole series of machines that they'll actually attach people to right at the moment that a cardiac arrest would be declared unsuccessful. And with that kind of technology, essentially all of the organs except for the brain are very liable to be almost perfect, almost perfect. And so they've gotten that technology on board. Now, remember, they live in a very different society where healthcare is free. It's felt there's an obligation that because you've received these benefits throughout your life, that if you had the ability to save another person, you've been in a terrible traffic accident and you've been decapitated, for example, the assumption is that you would want to contribute your heart or your liver to someone. And so there's a presumed desire to donate in France. So, but those are decisions that we really do need to make. The kind of technology that we are talking about is the kind of technology that would preserve organs from essentially the majority of people who sustain death.